Guys, good Wednesday afternoon. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world, right here on the I Love CVille Network. Just a glorious day outside here in Central Virginia and across the Charlottesville and Albemarle County area. I feel very fortunate to be above the mud and enjoying the weather, the sunshine, and just a zest for life. Today's program, I think, is going to be influential, impactful, entertaining, engaging, educational, and full of energy. A lot of topics I'd like to cover with you, including the listing we syndicated across the I Love CVille Network yesterday that undoubtedly has now gone viral. 338 Chesapeake Street, an 81-year-old house that, frankly speaking, is not in the best shape. 870 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, needs a paint job, needs a new roof, $399,000 asking price. We'll talk about that listing, we'll analyze it from every side, and we will utilize that listing into a springboard, into multiple discussion topics associated with the real estate ecosystem. I'm going to explain why I believe we are not in a real estate bubble here in Central Virginia. I will also explain why upzoning in this community may be having the exact opposite impact of what it was intended to do, when many in the community have pushed this nuanced, sophisticated, progressive ideology, tactic, or strategy forward some years ago. As a different topic on today's program, we will highlight a topic that Commonwealth's Attorney Jim Hingley relayed to me via Twitter. The beautiful aspect of this show is you, the viewer and the listener, can determine the pace, the tempo, and the topic matter of the program by sending me your ideas, your storylines, ideas you'd like for us to cover on the show. We have tremendous respect for Jim Hingley. In fact, I think it's time for Commonwealth's Attorney Jim Hingley to get his own moniker. Judah Wickhauer, our fabulous director, let us know when that 2 shot's ready to go. I think Jim Hingley's moniker should be the king of the court. He routinely makes the program better. So the second topic of today's program will be this one he sent to me, which I will read straightforward and verbatim from the message. Question for you guys, including you, Judah. Now that parents and not local school boards set masking policy for the schools, please consider the Paramount Theater masking policy. I'll read it to you, Judah. Masks will be required for all individuals inside the theater, regardless of vaccination status, except while actively eating or drinking in their seat. Now a group of school children can go to an event at the Paramount. Perhaps it's a field trip. They happen all the time. We see the school buses, Judah, on Market Street as the kids go to the Paramount for a field trip. Happens all the time. Jim continues, do you remember before COVID, we used to see the school buses pulled up to the back of Paramount on Market Street? Anyhow, do you believe the parents can now dictate the Paramount's masking policy since this is a school field trip? If you believe that the Paramount should be in charge of its masking policy instead of parents, because as a private enterprise, it is entitled to manage risk in the manner it thinks best, then why can't local school boards, by the same argument, determine masking policy based on local conditions and circumstances? Jim continues, Judah. Why is it okay for state government to take power away from elected local boards accountable to people through the ballot box and put policy-making authority in the hands of parents who are not elected to govern. Remember, not wearing a mask affects everyone around the person who is not masked. The decision affects the whole community, and isn't that why we have local boards who govern in the interests of the whole community? It's called democracy. So I'll cliff notes this, put it in a nutshell with a ribbon. He compares the public schools. Yesterday, parents, are we on a 2? Mm-hmm. Yesterday, parents were giving the autonomy or the influence to determine whether their son or daughter put on a mask or wore a mask in schools. And he's saying, please compare the scenario of public schools and how the governor, Glenn Youngkin, has yanked the authority from school boards that are elected and local jurisdictions away from the school boards, the decision-making away from the school boards. Instead, it said that decision-making is going to go from the governor's mansion, his house, to parents and their house, and whether or not their kids wear a mask to school. And he's going to ask us, and he has asked us, to compare and contrast that to the Paramount Theater when children on field trips go from school to school bus to theater, and whether or not they also have the influence, the autonomy, the decision-making power to wear a mask inside the Paramount or not. I want you to noodle that. You have a big, beautiful brain. First, I'm going to say, good afternoon, my friend. That topic, I think, is extremely intriguing. How are you doing today?
All right. So, I know Youngkin made his original
executive order, not a mandate. Order. Executive order.
Right. But that has now been voted upon, correct? And passed.
That's right.
A different bill. And that got bipartisan support. So how are the two related? How is the bill that was voted on, how does that relate to something like the Paramount?
Keep going, because I think you're making a good point. Keep going.
Well, I'm just
because you're saying it's a private entity.
No, I'm just curious how all-encompassing was the bill, because he makes it sound like it's Youngkin that is calling the shots now, but it would seem to me that now that the bill has been passed, it's a little more broadly supported.
Bipartisan support.
So
Republicans and Democrats push this forward, undoubtedly.
Yeah. So is the bill just what's the word I'm looking for? Is it just covering what's going on in schools?
Yes.
Okay. So he's saying that since everybody else gets to decide what they do in their own business, why are schools excluded from that ability?
He's saying, and it's a great topic, that in a nutshell, true democracy is school boards at the local level, elected people to those school boards, paid a small wage, I believe, of $500 a year to be on the school board. Nothing for the headache they incur.
But they get less decision-making power than the parents, and they were elected, the parents weren't. You know, I kind of agree. It was the same thing I was saying when Youngkin first came out with his executive order, is that, look, I completely get dropping the mandate, but going in the other direction and adding a mandate of your own doesn't make any sense to me. Why not leave it to the schools in association with the parents and the teachers and everybody else involved in the schools, and let them decide what's best for their individual
jurisdictions or school systems,
for their needs. Maybe they have multiple teachers or multiple students with immunocompromised issues that they need to keep a tighter rein on things like spreading germs and stuff like that. I don't know what they did before COVID came along. I'm sure they had some way of mitigating the risk, but I think the point still stands that don't mandate across broad spectrums without understanding what's going on in the underlying districts.
It's a great topic. Well said. Very well communicated from Judah Wickower, our director. This topic will be number 2 on today's program, and I will offer the take of my own and play some devil's advocate with Judah on today's show. We will discuss this in about 10 minutes on the program. After we discuss this in about 10 minutes on the program, we'll also talk about a change in the University of Virginia Honor Code. This from the Cavalier Daily. For the first time since 2016, Judah, students will have the opportunity to fundamentally change the honor system this spring. If passed, a referendum authored by Honor Representative Christopher Benos, a third-year law student, will significantly alter the Honor Committee's constitution by reducing the current single sanction of expulsion and changing it instead to a 2-semester leave of absence. During the fall, the Honor Committee debated and ultimately failed to pass 5 different proposals aimed at reforming the honor process, including Benos's referendum. The Honor Committee, ironically, could not get a quorum most of the time during these five opportunities to pass the proposal. And because it could not accrue a quorum, Benos, the third-year law student, has instead passed this referendum, put forth his referendum to the University Board of Elections rather than relying on the referendum to come from the Honor Committee as a body. So here it is in a nutshell. The referendum went public January 25th, and it garnered the required 1,250 signatures in less than 9 days, officially surpassing the threshold by the 3rd of February. Now, the University Board of Elections, through a democratic referendum process, could change the 1-sanction expulsion for lying, cheating, stealing, plagiarizing at UVA and alter it to a 2-semester leave of absence instead, which would then allow the University of Virginia student to return back to grounds and classes. That is a fascinating discussion. The Honor Code undoubtedly woven into the fabric, the foundation, the history, and the legacy of this university. When you think UVA, you think Thomas Jefferson first, maybe the Rotunda second, Honor Code third.
Okay.
We'll talk that topic today on the program. Be prepared to offer some ammunition on that. And we will also, ladies and gentlemen, highlight a new restaurant that's about to open in the Charlottesville ecosystem. Boys and girls, get ready to rock and roll on what is going to be a red-hot edition of the I Love CVille Show on every social media platform known to mankind. The first one I want to talk, Judah, and why don't you cue up the 2 for us? The listing on Chesapeake Street, J-Dubs. You and I left scratching our heads yesterday, were we not?
I think everybody's scratching their heads about that.
$399,000 asking price.
I mean, somebody really wants to live there because
It's pending.
tell me if they turned around and tried to sell that in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, tell me they're going to get more than that.
The reality for homes like this, and if you're in the flipping game, you usually want to wait 2 years if it's your primary residence because of capital gains exposure.
This seems like a horrible time to go into flipping a house.
Flipping houses seems very difficult right now in the city of Charlottesville. I'm in agreement with you because of prices like this and because of multiple offer situations and because of escalator clauses and because boys and girls are going balls to the wall trying to purchase homes, sometimes doing them in emotional capacity as opposed to unemotional strategic capacity. That is undoubtedly a fact what's happening here.
It seems like if you were trying to strip a house today, you'd just be whittling away your bottom line.
You would certainly sacrifice margin. Let me give the nitty-gritty of the house for the viewers and listeners. Okay? In fact, if you can go to my personal Facebook page, J-Dubs, and if you can take the picture of the home on my Facebook page and screenshot it and put it on screen, and give me a thumbs up when that listing is on there. Okay? So get ready and buckle up, my friends. Give me a thumbs up when that's on there. I'm going to give them the nitty-gritty first. The home is 1338 Chesapeake Street. This is Woolen Mills, not Belmont. Woolen Mills. Still a beautiful neighborhood. Not the Tony, not the close to downtown Belmont, but still close Woolen Mills, but certainly does not have the cachet of Belmont. 338 Chesapeake Street, $399,000 asking price, 870 square feet, Judah. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 81 years old on a lot that's 0.2 acres. The home had a price adjustment. It's important to emphasize this. It initially came out of the gates. This is startling. Startling. It came out of the gates on February 25th. Today is what? March 2nd. It came out of the gates on February 25th, Judah. February 25th for $425,000 asking. By March 1, so February 25th to March 1 is 1, 2, 3, within 4 days of coming out of the gates on February 25th to March 1, the sellers and the listing agent chose to cut the price to $399K. So it went $425 to $399K. That shows you how rabid and momentum driven this market is. A seller lists a home on February 25th, is not satisfied with the interest, offers, and the folks knocking on the door, and by March 1, 4 days later, 96 hours later, chose to cut the price from $425K to $399,000. Well, guess what?
It worked.
Yeah, the price cut worked, Judah. Is that house on screen?
Just about.
He's about our very intrepid director.
I don't know if intrepid fits the...
Skilled, jack of all trades, adroit, versatile, chameleon-like, who's able to adapt on the fly. How are those adjectives and descriptions?
That's a little better.
Thank you. February 25th, $425,000 asking price. By March 1, they cut the price 6.1% to $399K. It's on the screen. Everyone, look at the screen. Look at the screen now. Leave it on the screen. Why don't we do some Monday morning quarterbacking by looking at the house on the screen now, both of us, okay? And we're just going to eye test. Let's do an eye test, right? I want to eye test it. What eye test immediately comes to mind for you? Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. What eye test immediately comes to mind for you when you're seeing stuff? And we're not trying to knock. We're not knocking. We respect anybody. We respect the free market and anyone's willingness to sell a home. And frankly, $399,000, the home went on the market with a 6.1% price cut on March 1, the same freaking day it went under contract. Judah, $425K on February 25th, 96 hours later, they cut it by 6.1%. When they cut it by 6.1%, it went under contract. Eye test, what do you see with this house? Keep it on screen, please.
What do I see? I'm not sure what you mean by eye
And give us
test,
that
but,
deep baritone voice in the microphone. What jumps to mind from this house when immediately looking at it?
Meager.
You say meager?
It's the first word that comes to my mind.
Okay, I say needing a paint job. That's an understatement, right? I say certainly looking like it needs a new roof. I say certainly looking like it needs new fascia boards. The boards or fascia boards are under the gutter. That is costly. They certainly look rotted. I say certainly looking like it needs new windows and the molding and holdings around the windows. I say certainly looking like it needs some landscaping. That sidewalk looks like it needs to be re-poured, the concrete.
So you're saying just rebuild it?
I mean, I do not believe that the buyer is purchasing this home to raise it, to knock it down with a bulldozer. I hope to God in Woolen Mills that the price of a 0.2 acre lot is not $399,000. If the home went under contract the day the price got cut to $399K, it's logical to say the offer that pushed the home under contract was damn near close to $399. That's just common sense, right?
They came down to their best offer.
Yeah, that's just common sense. So whoever purchased this home, investor, someone who's going to live there for an extended period of time, they made an offer that was basically $399,000. I cannot imagine that a 0.2 acre lot, Judah, are we two-shotting right now? Let's two-shot it. I cannot imagine that a 0.2 acre lot is basically $400,000 in this community.
How big of a house could you build on that lot?
I mean, 0.2 acres, you can build a massive house. You can go up. There's some homes in Old Trail that are on 0.1 acres that are 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. And it's because it's multi-level and they go up.
That's what I'd do.
Katie Pearl, Keller Williams watching the program, providing significant ammunition for the program. Katie Pearl, it's time you get a moniker on today's show. You contribute to this program routinely. You need a moniker. Queen of Whitehall. I believe you're building in Whitehall. Is that accurate, Katie Pearl? Let us know in the feed. If so, you are now going to become the Queen of Whitehall, Katie Pearl. Keller Williams Realtor, Katie Pearl. I'm looking at the agent notes, Katie says, and here's an excerpt from the home. Property sold as is, no repairs will be made. Home inspections for buyer's information only. Home needs some work.
Understatement.
This is the market we're in right now. I will read that to you again. This is from a realtor, one we trust, we count on, and one we like. She's A-plus people, very much like the Queen of Whitehall, Katie Pearl. I'm looking at the agent notes, and here's an excerpt. Property sold as is, no repairs will be made. Home inspections for buyer's information only. Home needs some work. You know what that says? That says
Caveat emptor.
Caveat what?
Caveat emptor.
What does that mean?
Buyer beware.
Yeah, all of them are buyer beware. All sales transactions are buyer beware. It's the responsibility of the buyer to do due diligence before making a purchase. All of them are buyer beware.
Yeah.
The king of Lachlan Hill, James, the king of orbits, James Watson. We're about to get to your comment here. Okay? King of orbits. We're about to get to your comment, James. The agent notes basically say, you can get an inspection if you want, but there will be no contingencies associated with that inspection if you want to purchase this house.
Mm-hmm. It just means you get it so you know.
So you know. The agent note says, sold as is.
Yeah.
Do whatever the hell you want. But we ain't making any changes, and we're basically want $400,000 for this, or we ain't selling it to you.
If I was selling it, I wouldn't offer to make any changes. I mean, look at the thing. You could spend the next 6 months fixing that up for someone.
So here's a natural springboard into the next discussion. And the king of orbits, James Watson, says, you got to keep in mind that if the home's value is on the market for too high of a price, the potential buyers will not be able to get a bank loan for that amount if it doesn't appraise for that high. In the case of a cash purchaser, this is not a problem. I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I think that is a phenomenal point, and instinct would say this is a cash purchase, or instinct would say that this particular buyer got a loan for an amount that was below closing price or pending price, and then brought cash to the table to make up the difference.
Yeah.
Okay? So here's a natural segue into the discussion. If you guys want to offer perspective, put it in the feed. Put it in the feed. Queen of Jack Jewett, Carol Thorpe, hello. King of the Trumpet, Ray Cadell, hello. Wild Bill McKenzie, welcome to the program. Thank you kindly for joining us. Here's what it comes down to. We can make a legitimate argument. Are you ready for this? A legitimate argument that the upzoning tactics that the progressive contingent in Charlottesville is doing with the foundation or the premise of creating affordability through enhanced density. I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna say this like for a sixth grader. There's a group of people in this community that believe adding more density to the city of Charlottesville will stabilize prices and create more affordability. Supply and demand. You up the supply,
Bring down the demand.
and demand stays the same, then pricing could go down or stabilize. There's a group of people, progressives, that certainly believe that.
So how would that look? Is that a matter of saying that the space between your house and your neighbor's house is now going to be a space for a new house?
No. Well, potentially. How it would look is this. Take Tim Grossman's listing. We had him on the show this past Friday. He has 126, he has the Shamrock Road listings.
Yeah, 126 and 128.
126 and 128 Shamrock Road. He's asking $1.6 million for 80-year-old houses. He explained on this show that this $1.6 million for two houses that are 80 years old, that are not that big, the potential is building up or tearing down and creating apartments. So the upzoning, going from R1 single family detached, R1, 53% of the city of Charlottesville is zoned R1 for single family detached homes. The progressive contingent in the community believes if you pivot the R1 zoning, 53% of R1 is city of Charlottesville housing stock. If you pivot that zoning and you allow that R1 to be converted into more density with maybe a cottage in the back, maybe you allow a granny flat or basement apartment, or maybe you allow the R1 single family detached to build upward and convert into a duplex, triplex, or quadplex, this would create more rental opportunities. And if more rental opportunities are created, this could potentially alleviate the supply chain stresses that are limited housing stock for people to purchase as a homeowners. You get it.
So you say allow. Is it their belief that is this like a Field of Dreams kind of thing? If you pass it, they will come? Like if they pass new zoning, that all of a sudden people will just start building up and out?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's well said. Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, Ray Liotta. If you build it,
if you pass it,
they
will
come.
build it.
If you pass it,
Well, is that the
If you
thought
pass it,
process?
they will come.
Because somebody has to buy the land, somebody has to tear down the buildings, or
If you pass it, progressives will have housing stock they can afford. Should I?
if they can find someone to build it.
I'll stop. The reality, and my theory that I've presented, that I've argued in compelling fashion, that I've consistently conveyed on this network, my theory, my premise, my argument is the upzoning that is being created in this community will have the opposite impact of affordability creation in Charlottesville. And I have empirical data leveraged for my theory and argument, and that empirical data, that evidence, is 128 Shamrock Road, 126 Shamrock Road. That data for my argument is 1338 Chesapeake Street. Homes that are, I'm going to say this nicely, in need of TLC.
Okay, but how do those houses relate to the rezoning?
Because they're able to take a home that is 81 years old, and the owners of the home are able to market and try to sell these homes not as houses in their current state,
but as opportunity to build up and out and larger structures that can hold more people and are worth more money.
Exactly.
So have these places already been rezoned?
No, the rezoning, the distinguished gentleman Keith Smith and the king of content Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, have a bet, a bottle of bourbon bet that is currently going on. And Neil Williamson, who is rarely wrong. Neil Williamson, are you watching right now?
He has walked away with at least one bottle of bourbon.
I have seen Keith Smith give Neil Williamson a bottle of bourbon. Have you?
Yeah.
Okay, I have seen Keith Smith give us a bottle of bourbon. Okay. The bet that Neil Williamson, the king of content, have, and the distinguished gentleman Keith Smith has, is the upzoning will be approved by council before close of business December 2023, before Snook, McGill, and Payne, 3 of 5 on council, before their term finishes. Williamson, President, Free Enterprise Forum, the king of content, says this upzoning will be greenlit and approved into policy
And you think people are already buying
before 2023
on
is over.
prices based on that rezoning?
Hells to the yeah. Hells to the yeah, they're buying based on that rezoning. No doubt, dog.
Okay.
You know why?
Because you buy it and you hold it for a year or two, and then you can build it into something that's worth a lot more.
You buy it today, it's going to take a runway of X amount of months, maybe a little bit longer, to remodel it, to get the approvals, the permitting, and to sort through the supply chain shortages in the remodeling.
Would you not need to wait on the rezoning to get approval on a project to build on a space like that?
The king of content, Neil Williamson, is watching the program. We love the king of content, Neil Williamson. He's watching the program. He just gave it a dap. He just dapped up the show on social. He just gave us a fist bump. Finish your thought. I apologize for interrupting J-Dubs.
I think I did. Like you said, if you were buying the property, getting ready to do all your stuff, applying for permits and whatnot, wouldn't you need to wait on the rezoning if you were going to apply for a permit to do something that would require that rezoning to have been passed already?
That's true. You cannot create more density on 1338 Chesapeake Street or 126 Shamrock Road or 128 Shamrock Road, not the density at its fullest potential until this upzoning is policied and approved by counsel. Lloyd Snook, Sina Begill, and Michael Payne, an aspect of their lasting legacy on the dais, will be greenlighting and approving and putting this policy into play. Speculators, investors, deep-pocketed wealthy individuals have the economic resources today to purchase and hold for a zoning rewrite 16 months from now.
Okay.
You know who does not have that potential?
The old lady that currently lives there?
No, not the old lady that currently... Well, yes, the old lady that currently lives there. I think that was a hell of an assumption. You call her old lady? Come on, dude.
Well, she's not getting outside to garden very much anymore, is she?
This home is owned by a 24-year-old white male, not an old lady.
Well,
I'm just joking. I have no idea who owns this home right here. You know who does not have the potential to hold this property and wait for a zoning change? The people that are buying this because this is all they can afford and are doing it for a first-time home purchase standpoint.
well, they're not doing that for $400,000.
Let's get to the feed and to some comments. The comments in the feed are blowing up. Johnny Ornalis, the king of Mexican food in Central Virginia, watching the program. Carol Thorpe, the queen of Jack Jewett, watching the program. Let's go to the king of content, Neil Williamson, watching the program. He says this, El Presidente of the Free Enterprise Forum. Not all dense housing is affordable. Please see Jerry's neighbor Nova Townhouse as an example, but nearly all affordable housing is dense. In part, the affordability is achieved with smaller units, lower land costs, less exterior wall, shared roofs, and less parking. Hashtag more housing everywhere for everyone, Neil Williamson. And he's right. He's 100% right with what he just said. I'm responding to Neil right now. Neil Williamson, comma, you are right, period. Enter, publish. I just sent you the response. However,
But
this
wait,
is what's...
there's more.
Wait.
But wait, there's more.
Wait, there's more. 3 squeegees for $19.99. And if you order right now, wait, there's more. You get this in the mail as well. Here's the fear I have. This community is going to evolve because of this upzoning into 2 demographics of people. Wealthy homeowners, 3 demographics of people. 3 demographics of people. Wealthy homeowners.
Poor homeowners.
That's not even one of my demographics, dog. Wealthy homeowners, 1.
Mm-hmm.
Even wealthier investors that own a smattering, a gaggle, a plethora of properties around the city of Charlottesville.
And the people that rent from them.
And renters that pay monthly fees to the gaggle, smattering, plethora of investors in the community. It will eventually pinch, gentrify, and jettison the lower class and the middle class. Hasta luego, away, peace out, hit the road, Jack, of the city. Renters struggling to survive, mailing monthly checks or Venmoing the gaggle, plethora, smattering of investors, and wealthy homeowners in this city and no one else. Queen of Jack Jewett says the term is speculation. Wild Bill McKenzie says the Democratic Council ramrods whatever they want despite public outcry. The king of Mexican food in Charlottesville and Central Virginia, El Mariachi is the bomb, and so does Guadalajara JPA, Johnny Ornelas. Rezoning equals more tax dollars for the jurisdiction. That's one reason it's being considered. Rezoning creates more tax dollars for the jurisdiction. That is a very good point. Georgia Gilmer, it's time you get a moniker. The city's assessment on 338 Chesapeake Street is $400,000. I do not believe, is that right? Are you certain on that, Georgia Gilmer? Is the assessment $400,000? No, that is not correct. The 2020 assessment on 1338 Chesapeake Street, Georgia Gilmer, I'm looking at it now. The 2020 assessment on 1338 Chesapeake Street is $326,500.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that as well?
No, but that sounds a little more.
It's a $75,000 delta. Get ready and giddy up. All right. Anybody want to add anything else that you gotta add? Curtis Shaver, the king of facial hair and beards, giving us a heart on the program. Hello, Curtis Shaver. Oh, Georgia Gilmer says 2022 is now $400K. Georgia Gilmer, if that's the case, I stand corrected. I'm only looking at the 2021 assessment. Jeez Louise, Georgia Gilmer. And you know what? Georgia Gilmer has never led me astray. Okay? That is startling. Georgia Gilmer, are you 100% certain on this? Katie Pearl, can you confirm? And Katie Pearl, the Queen of Whitehall, says, I agree, Jerry. I think it will have the opposite effect as well. Georgia Gilmore says the city assessment is now $400,000. That means Judah Wickower from 2020 to 2022, the assessment went up almost 75 G's.
If I was the old lady living in that house and my
we don't know it's an old lady,
went up $75,000, I would sell it too.
We don't know it's an old lady that's living there.
Come on. Humor me.
Somebody's
not taking care of that garden.
Why? Because she's got a broken hip?
Look at it. There's one plant.
I know. And dude, that plant is meager, dog. Isn't that a meager bush? That bush has seen some better days.
It's lonely. That's for
sure.
It's
so lonely. That bush is so lonely. It wants a friend, that bush. That bush needs an amigo. Give that bush a homie. Please bush up that bush with a homie. Oh, God. George, is that right? The 2022 assessment is $400,000? That's terrifying. Oh. All right, we got to go to the next topic. Good Lord, it's 1:20. We got a 1:45 meeting here in the Macklin building here. So we got 25 minutes, and we got a handful of topics we got to cover. All right, let's go to Jim Hingley's topic, the king of the court. The king of the court. Love Jim Hingley. Tremendous respect for Jim Hingley. I'm going to read the message he sent me. He has given me approval to read this. I always ask, specifically I ask Jim this because he's an elected official if I can mention this on air, and he's green-lighted this. Here it is, guys. I have a question for you. And by you, he also includes Judah. I have a question for you. Now that parents, not local school boards, are setting masking policy for schools, please consider this. Here is the Paramount Theater masking policy. Mask will be required for all individuals inside the theater, regardless of vaccination status, except while actively eating or drinking in their seat. Please, Jerry, consider this scenario. When a group of school children go to an event at the Paramount, perhaps a field trip, do you believe the parents can now dictate the Paramount's masking policy since this is a public school field trip? If you believe that the Paramount should be in charge of its masking policy instead of parents because it's a private enterprise and it is entitled to manage risk in the manner it thinks best, then why cannot a local school board, by the same argument, determine masking policy based on local conditions and circumstances? Question mark. Why is it right for state government to take power away from elected school boards, accountable to people through the ballot box, and put policy-making authority in the hands of parents who are not elected to govern? Remember, not wearing a mask affects everyone around the person who is not masked. That decision affects the entire community, and isn't that why we have local boards who govern in the interest of the entire community? It's called democracy. We're going to spend 10 minutes on this program before we go into UVA honor code changes for the final 10 minutes. What's on that medulla oblongata and on the tip of the tongue, Judah Whitcower? The frontal lobe? The brainstem?
I mean, they're interesting questions. I certainly think that individual businesses should have the right to decide for themselves what is best for them. And I think that in the case of schools, I would like to, I still think that parents and teachers and school boards should be discussing what is best for them. So I don't know that I disagree with him.
So you give Mr. Hingley some props.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
He's a very smart guy. Jim Hingley is a smart man. All right, let me do this. We got to get you back on the show, Jim. Love when you come on the program. Compelling commentary when you come on the show, and it's always a good back and forth conversation on this program. All right, so here's where I'm going to go with this. Public schools rely on funding from the Commonwealth of Virginia. That funding is associated with student body count. The more students you have in a public school, the more funding you will get from the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Paramount Theater is a private entity. It relies on ticket sales through the free market and donations from private donors to cover its overhead. So comparing a public school system and its masking policy to a private entity, the Paramount Theater, that relies on revenue from the private market, the free market, is to be a straight shooter and straightforward, comparing apples to oranges.
Right, because the school doesn't have a masking policy.
Because the school cannot survive if the governor and the Commonwealth of Virginia do not fund it. It can't survive.
Okay.
The Paramount Theater can survive because it gets donations from people in this community, including yours truly last year.
So that's your criteria?
I mean, that's one of my criteria. Undoubtedly one of my criteria. Another aspect of my criteria is voters in Virginia, speaking of democracy, voted, I think the margin was 2%, right under 2%, voted Glenn Youngkin the governor of Virginia by a roughly 2% margin, if memory serves correct. I think it was 1.8%. Glenn Youngkin ran on an entire campaign and platform of taking the power and returning it to parents. That was his entire campaign and platform. I will return the power when it's tied to mass to parents and remove it from school systems. And we're speaking of democracy here. Voters in Virginia said yes to Youngkin at the ballot box in the voter booth, and no to Terry McAuliffe in the same voter booth and ballot box. So now people are up at arms and surprised and shocked and dismayed and depressed and demoralized and disgusted and disgruntled and dysfunctional with their thinking Because Youngkin is doing exactly what he campaigned he was going to do.
Did he really campaign on taking power away from the schools?
Yes.
Or was it in knocking down the previous mandate?
All of the above.
Well, there is no all of the.
Yes,
Those are not the same thing.
He campaigned on eradicating Northrum's mandate on mask. He campaigned on empowering parents with masking decision-making and removing that masking decision-making from elected officials in school systems. That was his campaign.
Okay.
So if we're talking democracy, we first got to prioritize and remember that voters elected this man into office. Now, Jim Hinchley makes a point. Here's a point that Jim Hinchley makes that's very good. Jim, we have tremendous respect for you. Smart guy. Removing the authority from school boards at the local level is a slippery slope. Because when you start eradicating or taking away democratic decision-making at the local level tied to masks in schools, what's the next thing you're going to do? Where else are you going to go? What else may you consider doing?
I agree with that.
Are you going...
That's been my whole point the whole time, is that we're going from one overreaching mandate to another. And as someone who tends towards libertarianism, I would rather the government not be making decisions for everyone. No matter whether I like that decision or not, I have to stand on the fact that I prefer our government to stay out of things. And so I would have preferred that the mandates be stricken, not altered.
Yeah. And that's a libertarian in you. That's a libertarian in me. You would prefer that it's the school boards at the local level who make the decisions.
I would prefer that they make the decisions with the full cooperation of the teachers and the parents and the students.
And the voters that put them on the board.
I would imagine that those are going to be some of the teachers and the parents.
No, 100%. That is.
Yeah, and so the point is, it should be a discussion. It should be a decision that's made for the best. What am I trying to say? It should be a decision that's made that desires the best for the school district, students, teachers, parents, and everyone. Not just a blanket mandate that, no, you can't do this.
So did we go from one polar opposite to the other?
That's what I've been saying all along.
Is the governor of Virginia
That's been my problem with
politics?
Youngkin's. Yes, that's what I think. I think we just swung from one opposite to the other.
We did an entire 180.
That's what the right and left always do. There's never a compromise. There's never a this is what's best for the people. It's just this is the opposite of what the other side wants.
Tom Bowe, the fabulous restaurateur, who's got the secret recipe of the best house sauce in the Commonwealth, and take it away, offers this perspective. Educating our youth, regardless if they're from childbearing families, is our civic and moral duty. Not so with other charities. Furthermore, educating our youth, it's a slippery slope. Public schools do not belong to school board, not to any single group of parents. They belong to everyone. Carol Thorpe, Queen of Jack Jewett. School attendance is compelled by law roughly 9 months a year, 5 days a week for 7 hours or so per day. A field trip is not mandatory and a one-off event. The emotional, psychological, and physical effects of masking between the two are poor comparisons. She mentions that to Jim. The physical effects of masking between the two are poor comparisons. I also didn't think the two were good comparisons. Katie Pearl, Queen of Whitehall. Have we lost our autonomy? Why do I need the school board to make a decision about my child? No, Judah, giving people their own decision-making autonomy is not a 180. The Queen of Whitehall right there. Dude, it's a slippery slope. You get Northam, I say his name wrong every time. You get the former governor, Ralph Northam, and you get him doing sweeping mandates. Sweeping mandates in the Commonwealth of Virginia that, with the benefit of retrospect, prioritized, incentivized big corporate box stores that had the deep personnel and cash on its balance sheet to make changes on the fly. And unfortunately, deprioritizing or negatively impacting local mom and pops that don't have the personnel or deep cash on their balance sheets to adapt to mandates on the fly. Remember Ralph Northam? He was making changes literally with no announcement or lead time during the pandemic. He'd call these press conferences where we would all be watching on our computers or on social media on the TV, and the businesses in our community in Charlottesville and across the Commonwealth would literally be saying, what the hell is Ralph Northam going to do now that is going to cause us to change our business model tomorrow morning and give us no lead time or runway? Well, if you're changing the business model with a government mandate like Ralph was doing, and you give businesses a day or two from a leeway or heads up standpoint, of course the Targets, the Lowe's, the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Applebee's, of course the Outback Steakhouses are going to have an advantage over the Tavelas, the Mas Tapas, the Maya restaurants, over the Angeliques, over the Citizen Burger bars, because they got more staff and deeper pockets. This is just common sense. But to Judah's point, we're going from one governor doing sweeping mandates to another one utilizing executive orders. Now, you also made the point that it gained bipartisan support in Richmond, Democrats and Republicans. And certainly Democrats and Republicans voted pro-parental autonomy and expedited that into action, where initially this was going to happen at the end of the second semester. And now it's March 1, yesterday. Very interesting topic. What are your thoughts? Put it in the feed. Live on every social media platform known to mankind with a hell of a lot of engagement on today's show. I want to get to the honor code topic. This one I find fascinating. I went to the University of Virginia. My brother went to the University of Virginia. My father went to the University of Virginia. And I'm not putting any pressure on my son. He could go to school anywhere he wants, but if he says, Dad, I'd like to go to the University of Virginia, I'd say, wahoo wah, go who's go. And give him a chest bump. And take him out for a delicious take-it-away sandwich and some bread ends on Elliowood Avenue. Here it is in nitty-gritty, okay? I want your take on this. A third-year law student has posed a referendum, and the referendum got the necessary signatures. So now the honor code could be changed forever. Lying, cheating, and stealing was expulsion when I went to school there, when my dad went to school there, when my brother went to school there. Lying, cheating, and stealing, you get expelled from school. This third-year law school student is saying if someone gets popped lying, cheating, and stealing, we want these students that lied, cheated, and stole to not get expelled, but instead take a 2-semester absence, and then they can return to school. And the law student, third year, has said, if we approve this referendum, and now it's up to the University Board of Elections, if we approve this referendum, people, students, professors will be more likely to expose or call out or report the students who lied, cheated, and stole because they have a second chance to get back in, 2 semesters off, and then come back, as opposed to getting expelled immediately, and that's it at the University of Virginia. So the theory by this law student, this third-year law student, his name is Christopher Banos, is that if we massage the honor code and make it a 2-semester leave of absence instead of expulsion, we would in fact have more reporting in a stronger honor code because people will be less fearful of reporting students who broke the code because they know they have another chance to get back into school. It's fascinating
It's a
topic.
fair point.
It's a decent point. The question is, wasn't the entire foundation of what Thomas Jefferson built his university upon this honor code? And are we not in a similar way of what Youngkin was doing with eradicating democracy from local school boards? Are we not creating a potential slippery slope if we change an honor code that's been in existence for centuries? What's the next thing that we're going to change at UVA? Or do we say, we learn from the past, it's time to evolve and continue improving? That's why we have admitted women to the University of Virginia. That's why we allow people of color into the University of Virginia, because we're better people today than we were 200 years ago, and we know the mistakes we made in the past need to be changed now so we can make the institution even better, and that's why we allow women here. That's why we allow people of color here. That's why it's no longer jacket and tie and suit and pants on a 104-degree day walking from Madison Avenue to Alderman Road, sweating your you-know-what's off. It's a dynamic topic. I do believe, Judah, that there would be more reporting of lying, cheating, and stealing if it's not a one-sanction expulsion and it's instead a more forgiving 2-semester leave of absence.
Yeah, that sounds like a fair assessment to me. I could see a lot of people letting things slide because they're like, does this deserve an expulsion?
Tom in studio makes a really good comment. If lying and cheating isn't a deal breaker, then what is a deal breaker at UVA? What about the tons of students who did not get into the University of Virginia, but who would have never lied, cheated, or stolen? They were denied admissions. Another student was prioritized over them, but they would never have lied, cheated, or stole. Such a dynamic topic. Such a dynamic topic. Think about that and offer some perspective. Bill McKenzie says a rat is a rat is a rat. Wild Bill McKenzie. Last topic, and then I'm going to get to some comments. We're going to get to the comments here in a matter of moments. We got a meeting at 1:45, which is in T-minus 3.5 minutes. On Friday's show, this Friday, live in this studio, we will have Cassandra Rodriguez, the new owner of Vegan Comforts Soul Food. Cassandra Rodriguez. I'm friends with her on Facebook if you're looking for the Facebook, you're looking for the show promo, J-Dubs, to get ahead of that. Cassandra Rodriguez, the new owner of Vegan Comforts Soul Food. Here's the very interesting thing. On this past Friday show, we highlighted Ryan Becklin, who's opening up a vegan restaurant in Java Java. It's been a fair amount of time. Now, I want to give some props to Voo Noodles. I think Voo Noodles, while it undoubtedly is a vegan restaurant, it's a takeout window, more of a restaurant. But I still give props to Voo Noodles for creating a vegan scenario. Ryan Becklin is opening a sit-down restaurant in the old Java location on the downtown mall. And now another option. So for so long, the niche of vegan in the city of Charlottesville has been underfilled or underrepresented. And in a matter of 9 days, 2 restaurants that are vegan-centered and focused are going to have grand openings in this community. So we go an extended period of time. I don't want to stipulate the exact period of time, but a long, long time of not having a vegan-only restaurant in the community. And within a 9-day window, 2 open in the city of Charlottesville. That is something right there. Yep, vegan soul food. Bill, I am going to ask her that exact question. How is it possible to do vegan soul food? I will ask her that exact question. All right, 90 seconds left in the program with a 1:45 on the horizon here. Comments that have come on the feed. The king of orbit, James Watson, has this. What we are probably seeing is typical of Arlington and Alexandria, Virginia. A bunch of investors do not care about the house that's there. It's all about the lot and the long-term potential for investors to create and maintain generational wealth. He says they're buying Chesapeake Street for the grass, for the land, and for the dirt, and the upzoning potential on the horizon. James Watson. King of orbit. Love you, James Watson. Today's show was dynamite. Absolutely dynamite. I really appreciate everyone who's contributed to the program. A lot of you watching and a lot of you participating. We're back in the saddle tomorrow at 12:30 with Jesse Rutherford, Nelson County Board of Supervisor, Judah. 12:30, Jesse Rutherford on the I Love CVille Show. And I'm going to specifically ask him this question. Charlottesville, Virginia has to do a 10-cent real estate tax rate increase, which will undoubtedly gentrify the community and folks living on the financial margin out of the community.
What do you mean have to?
If City Council wants to do the Buford and Walker school reconfiguration, they have to do a 10-cent real estate tax rate increase. If they do not do the 10-cent real estate tax rate increase, Buford and Walker school reconfiguration do not happen at a $75 million clip for Buford, $25 million clip for Walker.
Right.
That 10-cent real estate tax rate increase will undoubtedly gentrify folks on the financial margin out of the city of Charlottesville, creating a wealthier, more homogenous community. Those are all facts. No one's going to be able to deliberate or argue those comments. Nelson County, on the other hand, has managed to create a plethora of taxpayer dollars in a coffer, money just sitting in an account for a rainy day, for when the proverbial you-know-what hits the fan, for when Nelson County Middle School, Nelson County High School need to be reconfigured. The money's there. They are saying to their constituents, we don't want to raise taxes on you. You guys are paying us too much. Nah, keep your money. How the hell is Nelson doing that? That topic on tomorrow's show. For Judah, I'm Jerry, and this is the I Love CVille Show. So long. Tom, good to see you.